Welcome back to Glove Talk, a mound visit with the Beaties. We'll be visiting with some of the best baseball minds to hear insights into all things baseball, from players and coaches to fans of the game and everyone in between. These are their stories and more on their mound visit with the Beaties. This podcast is sponsored by Vitamin One. Vitamin One is a delicious non-sugar drink loaded with the B vitamins and electrolytes. It has natural flavor and no artificial coloring. Hydrate your health with Vitamin One. This podcast is sponsored by Lumberland Bat Mugs. Lumberland baseball bat mugs are made out of a hollowed barrel of the bat that holds 12 ounces of hot or cold beverages. They are the perfect gift for any player, coach, parent, or diehard fan. Drink straight from the barrel all year long with the Lumberland Bat Mug. Go to lumberland.com, that's LUMBERLEND.com, and design your own bat mug today. Lumberland, the home of the original bat mug.
No, I mean, I think the big thing is I was never aware that, according to the all-powerful Wikipedia, you had some kind of quote in there that said, you don't want to go into the hall unless Pete Rose is in there. And, some radio guy around here made mention of that. And I'm thinking to myself, even if you said it, I mean, how can you justify a guy that's a World Series MVP and a two-time Cy Young Award winner getting what, 6% or whatever it was, and you're
4%.
4%. I mean, it boggles my mind.
Wow.
I mean, to me, it's like, didn't you look at it and go, what are you going to do to get a little recognition?
Well, I did piss off a lot of people with a few comments about Pete Rose. I was an advocate of his because my thought behind the whole entire Hall of Fame was, and again, as Tyler knows, spring training, the FBI comes around, the Player Association comes around, and they bang it into your head. There's no gambling on sports. Specific baseball. You'll be banned from baseball for life. Well, from everything that I heard about Pete, it was as a manager, and it was after his playing days. So for me, and again, I guess that's that kind of fine line that he has more hits than anybody in baseball. I mean, Ichiro, if you combine his Japan and American hits, he's got more than Pete. But not being in the Hall of Fame, and again, if he bet on baseball as a player when he was playing, I have a completely different mind frame about that. But I was vocal when it came around, and hence probably only getting 4% of the votes because I pissed a lot of guys off.
Yeah, that's difficult. No, I think, obviously, first and foremost, thanks for being on. We'll talk a bunch of baseball, and that's our hope, is to, obviously, during this time with no baseball, give the fans and players something to listen to. And obviously, it being called Mound Visit Podcast, we would just want to bring some insights into players' lives on and off the field and sort of the inner circle of people who helped them sort of be where they are today. And I think when I think about, my career and a point in time where I sort of felt like I started to get on the map was the area code games where we crossed paths for the first time. And so, I think the first question that my dad probably wanted to ask was in regards to both your time there as being an agent and seeing kind of the youth development there, but even your point in your career being in high school. So, Dad, I don't know if you had a more specific question for him in regards to that area code game.
Well, I think that, the big thing about that was really that was the time when I can specifically pinpoint that rather than just college recruiting, professional baseball was kind of in your future at some point, whether it was after high school or during your college career. So from, you being our inaugural podcast, our first guest on our podcast, Sabes, I figured I'd ask the original captain, what was it like during your era? You didn't have the area code games. And, a lot of these, what they say, a lot of kids don't have access to those types of events. And what was it during your time period that kind of where you began to think, I think professional baseball may be in my future as well?
Well, first off, I hated being an agent. I got 2 years in, and it's a lot of work. And the thing that I love the relationships that we created, getting to know you, getting to know Ty, getting to know a bunch of ball players, especially younger ball players, because we did a lot of those area code stuff and that. perfect pitch stuff. Went to Cary, North Carolina for, U.S. qualifying stuff. So we were all over the map, and we were recruiting a lot of young guys. And the relationships that I created, and I still in contact with a few guys. Aaron Sanchez is one of them, still around, doing well. So there's a few guys that I still keep in contact that we tried to recruit. We never got Ty because we were gone by the time he was baseball eligible out of Vanderbilt. So it was the other agents make it really a seedy business because they go behind your back. They promise your players stuff that they're not allowed to give, such as loans and monumental things to their families and so on and so forth. They promise them all kinds of stuff, and they hop from, agent to agent because they're getting money, especially a lot of the Latino players because they didn't really have it. And so it just became a real seedy business that I wasn't really crazy about after 2 years. I committed to 2 years. I did my best, and I felt bad. Like I was letting a lot of the guys down that we did end up taking. But we had a few good guys that stayed on and that were with the agency. So, but going back to, with all the stuff that, Ty went through and a bunch of these guys go through nowadays, it's almost too much because you're trying to show off at all these different events. And sometimes you might not be ready to give it everything you got, because it could be a downtime of the year. And it just seems like you're playing baseball throughout the whole entire year rather than taking those breaks. So some of this stuff I think is too much, but as far as me growing up, I don't know, for some reason, I guess the smaller little towns, Midwest towns and stuff, some guys could probably be overlooked, but for the most part, a lot of guys coming out of California, Texas, even back east, I think there's a lot of guys being seen, and a lot of these scouts did a great job back then because they didn't have the technology. They would have to actually be bird dogs and going out there and looking at all these guys and spending mega hours and days on the road chasing after guys and trying to find guys. And when you hear about somebody, you go and look at them, and then you got to make sure that what you've been told is correct. So I think it's a little bit too much nowadays for some of these kids, and some of the kids feel like they're left out of some of these particular area codes and perfect game stuff and so on and so forth. But they get.
You were a high school basketball player, right?
I was all right. I wasn't the superstar. We had two guys. One went to Washington State, and the other one went to DePaul University. And Kevin Holmes, who was at DePaul, ended up going to Europe and having a great career in Europe for, 10, 12 years over there and playing basketball. But we won the city championship in basketball, and I started. But again, if I averaged 4 points, that was pretty solid. I wasn't the Steve Kerr as the Last Dance I've been watching in that. And I don't know if you know this funny story about Steve Kerr. We played against each other in the city championship game at Dodger Stadium, and he started on the mound for them, and I started on the mound for us. And let's just say that he made a great choice in profession in baseball. We won, I think, 13-0, and I threw a no-hitter at the city championship game. And he still talks about it periodically to different people, but it was fun to watch him. I had no idea about his dad, and that was very sad last night to watch part of that and see, his dad going over to Kuwait and getting killed over there. So, I found it's just kind of weird how different sports go in and out of your lives and that. And I was very impressed with the work ethic and the stuff that Michael did. I had no idea. I knew he was probably one of the best basketball players ever to play the game, but it's kind of fun to see exactly how everything kind of went down.
Yeah. We had a coach, speaking of the documentary, we had a coach up here, Glenn DeSarcina. His brother is a big league coach, was with the Red Sox for a while, Gary.
Sure.
And he played Double-A in Birmingham with Michael Jordan. And so he spent the whole year with them. And, he tells me some unbelievable stories, about the bus that he bought. But he really
That's a true story. I heard he bought a bus. It was like $600,000 for on a piece of crap.
Tito Francona traveled in style as a Double-A skip, So, but he was telling stories. He goes, this guy could have just mailed it in. He says, but he's out taking batting practice, before games, after games, taking fly balls. He was really putting in the time to try and evidently be the best, that he could be at with regard to the sport. But it just goes to show you how many baseball players are multi-sport athletes, whether they played in high school or college, but, you know, growing up. Now you're starting to see so many kids, and I think Ty can speak to that, you know, playing sports, multi-sports at a young age is critical. I mean, you're a basketball player. Jordan was a basketball and baseball player. I mean, now I see so many kids that are just baseball players, and then they become pitcher onlys at 11 and 12 years old. I think it's nuts.
Well, and again, you have, I think, some college guys, definitely college, but I've even been, you know, Harvard Westlake out in Los Angeles area. Matt LaCour basically told a lot of his guys that were coming in, you're either playing baseball or you're not playing baseball. He didn't want them playing multiple sports, which I found it kind of crazy because you need that break from just for one sport. I mean, even you, Ty, professionally, you've got to shut your body down and give it a break, and then work yourself back into that playing shape and stuff. You know, get ready for spring training. You know, it's that spring training getting ready for. So everybody needs a break and needs to get away from it for a little bit. But there's too many kids that are now doing one sport and they're doing it year round, especially in the warmer states. And now you got indoor facilities, and now with COVID and stuff going on, I don't know how things are going to work, but I love, and Ty, I'm sure you love multiple sport athletes, and there's not enough of them coming up anymore. It seems like it's one sport or that's it.
I think about the importance of just continuing to try to implement multiple sports. Like now I'll throw the football before I play catcher, especially in the off season, to train certain, you know, arm path movements and things of that nature, and maybe playing a pickup game of basketball, not too full go, but to stay in shape and to increase some cardio and things of that nature to keep it fun. But, you know, I think about like that documentary and just speaking about like, man, what drove Michael to want to just relentlessly be great, and not only just be great by himself, but like to elevate the play of his teammates. And I think what I want people to gain from listening to a story of yours is, you know, what was a driver for you, you know, to overcome certain adversities, whether when you were younger or you spoke of, you know, some of your injuries and rehab. Like, was it something that happened when you were younger? Was it someone who raised you, who gave you a certain determination to just want to continue to relentlessly pursue success and being good at your craft?
Well, I learned it actually at an early age. So my first year in organized baseball was I was in California. I was probably one of the best. There's two of us, Larry Beinfest, who actually was the general manager of the Marlins for a while.
Oh, wow.
We played against, we played on the same team my first organized year of baseball in Los Angeles. We moved after the season was over, and I had to go to a new league and go through the tryouts because nobody knew who I was, and so on and so forth. So my mom kept saying, you're going to pick up a ball, you're going to pick up a bat, you're going to do anything. Mom, I don't need to do that. You saw how good I was last year. I don't need to do that stuff. Well, sure enough, come tryouts. Nobody knows who I am. I go out there playing some shortstop. They hit me, I don't know how many balls. By the time I knock them down and I throw them over to first base, not one of them's accurate. I go to the outfield. I catch a couple, drop a couple. I take like 10 swings. I think I fouled one pitch off and went home crying. And my mom at that point in time said, if you want to be good at whatever you do, it doesn't have to be baseball, but whatever you decide to do in life, if you want to be good at it, you've got to work hard and practice at it. And, you know, I still laugh at that Allen Iverson quote. Practice. We're talking practice. Well, yeah, we're talking practice. And if you want to get good at something, you got to work hard at it. You can be good, but if you want to be great, and if some guys, sometimes good at it is good enough to get to the professional level, and then maybe even hopefully the big leagues. But for me, that was the one time that I just always go back to and say, you know what, if I want to be good at whatever I'm doing, I've got to work hard at it. And, you know, what do they say? The 10,000 hours, I probably plenty of those hours, not more, but I always felt that and as a starting pitcher, when you're winning and you're going good and everything is falling into place, and it could be 3, 4, 5 starts in a row, month, you know, whatever, I call it styling. I'm styling out there, you know, that's the tough time to push yourself to work harder and to do everything that you normally are doing. It's the times that where I struggled and I was getting my ass kicked out there a few games. It'd be like, okay, I'm on the side. I'm doing a little extra. I'm doing a little extra running. I'm working my tail off a little bit more. But it was tougher for me to motivate when, as I say, I was styling and I was going through a good stretch of pitching well or winning and so on and so forth.
That's a great point.
Now, did you have a moment when you were coming up in the minor leagues where you were like in awe? I mean, for me, I vividly remember watching you walk across Blair Field, and the first image that comes across, and I think I told you this, is you jumping into George Brett's arms in '85. Because for me as a kid, George Brett was an absolute icon. I mean, I never got to really see Robin Yount play a lot. You know, I saw George Brett. It was my very first major league game at Fenway in 1980. The Royals were in to play Sox, and I'm over by the third base dugout, and I see number 5 walk out. So for me, I'm going cuckoo as a 17-year-old looking at George Brett, and then 5 years later, watching you jump into his arm. Was there a moment in your minor league career as you were coming up at maybe spring training or a locker room where you looked around and go, holy cow, I'm in the big league, I'm in the show?
Yes, but no, not really intimidated. So yeah, I played, fortunately, I was only 1 year in the minor leagues. I was,
it's not bad.
Single A for 3 months. I got called up to Double A for the last 2 months. We went to postseason. And the next year I got invited to spring training as a non-roster player. And I was hoping to make the Triple A squad come time to break camp. And that we had a couple pitchers that were down with injuries, some of the veteran guys. And they took Mark Gubazon and myself into the Dick Hauser's office and said, we're going to take you north with us. So we're not even sending you to Double A or Triple A. So 19 years old, my first week in the big leagues. I turned 20 April 11th, but getting back to that, I was never intimidated by players or teammates or George. George was a California boy, and I acted like a younger brother, and he had to put me in my place a few times. Really took good care of Mark and myself, Gubazov. But the one day I kind of was like, awe was our first practice. So we go to Kansas City. We stopped off at Memphis, Tennessee to have a game before we showed up back in Kansas City to play against our Double-A team. So we go there, we come home, and our first practice before we had an off day, and then opening day was the following day. The first day that I came out of the clubhouse, walked on the field and kind of looked around, was like, oh, wow, this is pretty awesome. But after a period of time, as you play and you're used to, these magnificent cathedrals that we were fortunate to play on, and you're playing on now, Ty, is at some point in time, you forget how special it really is. And it's work, you got to go out, and if you want to be successful and so you want to stay in the big leagues, you've got to put your work in, and you kind of lose track of how the grass smells and how special the clubhouses are. And, what people in and around baseball and the fans, how they treat you. It's you kind of, after a while, you lose track of it. So after I retired and I started coaching high school ball, and I was playing on some pretty shitty fields. There's a couple pearls, Mustakas and Dominguez both went to Chatsworth, and I was coaching against them, and they were a powerhouse forever. And their field was always magnificent, and El Camino was like that. So there was a few nice, really kept up fields, but majority of them were, it's like, oh, well, I want to go back to the big league for those fields.
Yeah, I know. I've felt that way the whole past season, man. Obviously we got to play at Fenway, which is the park I grew up going to see. It's like, man, I would love to play at Fenway, almost every game. And then I thought about playing around my family, and, maybe after a while I would have just gotten used to it, and I wouldn't have had the same incredible magical feel that it did just playing there for a couple of days. But I guess in my shoes, because you say that, and, obviously I long to have a long career like yours, but was there something that maybe not you recognize maybe while you were playing, but now that you would go back and tell yourself, like, hey, maybe have this perspective, or maybe, change your motivation or your focus? Maybe if you didn't feel like you needed to change anything, what would you feel like you would go back and tell yourself?
Well, back when I was younger, I had that FOMO thing, fear of missing out. And so, I probably didn't get as much enough rest, and out doing a little bit too much.
You were still a kid.
So to speak. But that and staying away from the injuries, and maybe if I was getting a little bit more rest, I might have stayed away from some of the injuries. I don't know, but the injuries have always kind of, if I could change anything, go back and it would, if I could have stayed healthy throughout my whole entire career. And that the one thing about being injured and retiring from baseball, what made it easy was I physically couldn't do it anymore. My shoulder, after the third surgery, I came back in 2001 and pitched in 3 games, and each game it was worse. And it's like, I can't do it anymore physically. So for me, it was easy to walk away from the game because somebody didn't say, you're not good enough to do it anymore. So I kind of, people go, you missed the game. And of course you missed the game. You miss competing. You miss the camaraderie with your teammates. And, the travel, everybody asks, the travel must have been terrible. Everything's taken care of for us. You show up at the hotel, you got the key package, you pack your stuff, get to the hotel. Everything is pretty damn easy for us. But one thing if I could change would have probably been the injuries.
Anything to do with anything, your training habits or anything that you felt that helped you maintain arm strength over the course of a season, or anything you look back and say, well, I wish I did more of that, or things that kids aren't doing today?
Well, there's so many tools as I can speak at for now, that are going in professional sports, not only just baseball, but I mean, you've got, your psychologists, you've got your trainers, you've got massage therapists, you've got whatever the needs are, you pretty much have. You have your nutritionist. You have, meals being cooked for you. You've got special diets that you can go on, let alone all the new technology. They got hyperbaric chambers in some places. I know the Cubs have that.
Yeah.
You've got the treadmills in the water that, these guys are running on and not compacting their lower bodies if they've got an ankle, knee, whatever injury. So there's so much more at everybody's convenience now that you can utilize. So there's probably tons of things that I could have implemented. I mean, back in the day, it was like, you don't lift any weights, you don't want to bulk up, and you still don't want to bulk up because as a pitcher, you want the range of motion. I always say, a little bit comes from core turning and twisting. A lot of it comes from driving off the mound, Nolan Ryan style, but a lot of it comes from range of motion with your shoulder. So take a rubber band back this far, it's going to go so fast. If I take it back here, it's going to go even faster. So more range of motion you have in your shoulder, the harder velocity you're going to have. So you didn't want to do heavy weights. You didn't want to bulk up. You did a lot of legs. You did a lot of running, but there's so many other things now that they implement with pitchers that they can do to get stronger and not bulk up, and nutrition wise and so on and so forth. I was eating Wendy's. That was one of my pregame rituals. When I was at home, I'd stop off at Wendy's, and then you go through maybe a loss or 2 losses, then you change it up. But there's a time where I was eating a lot of Wendy's.
There's a free plug for Wendy's.
Eat
the
one of our sponsors here.
Maybe.
That's so true. That's so true. And when you were referring to it earlier, like when you're going good, man, you're feeling yourself, and it's like, I'm going to eat that In-N-Out burger today. Like, we got a trip to Baltimore after we're in Miami. I'm going to eat that pizza or that burger and enjoy this trip. But, like, yeah, I think back to, like, now when I'm on a rough stretch, and August was a rough stretch for me last year, and it's like, I'm kind of wishing I'd maybe had a little bit of the burger, but maybe not 2 of them, So it's sometimes you got to pick your spots. You don't want to not enjoy the experience, but it's almost like it is your work, like you're saying. This is your craft. You need to take it seriously. If you want to have a good, long professional career and stay healthy, those are the habits that you need to create and keep and be consistent with. So, that just stuck out to me, the Wendy's.
Oh yeah, no, honestly, Ty, you've got a great role model in your dad. He's done a great job with both you and your brother. It's been always a pleasure to be around you and him. I know he can be tough on you at times. He only wants the best for you. I know he loves you. But, that's that tough love at times where he just wants the best out of you. So it's great to have a father. I didn't have that father figure. And it's kind of cool that you have that mentor in Pops being there and doing it a little bit. And I always like to be around you guys and love picking Captain's ear every once in a while.
Well, you were the only guy that could settle me down in San Diego. And that was a rough stretch. I mean, I learned a lot from you that one particular day. I think the biggest thing is I had no parents when I was growing up, and so when it came to Kyle and Tyler, and especially as Tyler began to progress, I think the mistakes that I made was trying to be too fine and too perfect. So I try to tell parents now, you got to take the training wheels off and you got to let them go. And they're going to fall down. They're going to fail. They got to experience it. A lot of parents look at it as, well, so-and-so didn't fail, or so-and-so was an All-American, you know. So when I look back, and you mentioned names like Aaron Sanchez and Peter Tago, I think back to Christian Lopes, Travis Harrison, you know, all the guys during that era, you know, and you were always comparing, okay, what did Tyler do against those guys? When it really wasn't that relevant, because as they got older, everybody's kind of ability level either rose up or it sunk. So if I had it to do over again, I think I would have listened more to you and Bud, you know, with regard to development and playing, being athletic and those types of things. And, you know, today when I get asked, I tell parents, they always say, well, what is it about, you know, all these pitchers getting Tommy John surgery? And I always say, well, when I was a kid, and I'm 57, kids in the neighborhood played catch. You know, we played catch whether we were on the street, whether we were in the playground. We had pickup games, you know, just in parking lots, stickball, but we were playing catch. Today, nobody plays catch unless they have a lesson. They're not going outside saying, hey, let's grab your glove, let's go outside and play catch, you know? So, what, you know, out in the West Coast, we don't have it so much on the East Coast, but on the West Coast, do you see a lot of ballparks that just sit empty and not a lot of pickup games, or just kids out there playing catch?
Yeah, you'll go by, you know, it's more organized rather than just guys. Every once in a while, it's great to see, and you will see it from time to time, a dad being out there with his son, and I mean, I've seen them smaller to bigger, but you like to see more of that, but there is some of that going on, and it's always special. And I always feel like every once in a while going, hey, let me help you out with this. You know, you do a little of this professionally, but it's like I just look from back behind and watch them and see how they're going about things. But it's great to see that, and yeah, it's pretty cool. It's kind of like going back to Field of Dreams with Kevin Costner.
Yeah. Exactly.
Walt and I, full circle moment for us when I was speaking to Fenway. We got to play catch out at Fenway. I brought him on the field, and we just played a game of catch, and it was like, for me, you think about, you know, just 20 years earlier when I was 6, dragging him to the backyard, playing catch, and seeing it kind of culminate to that moment was pretty cool. And I think to your point of how, you know, important my dad's been to me in my career, I mean, I can't say enough about how important the decisions that he's made for me and the way that he sacrificed for me. And I think that's the biggest thing that I want people to take away from this podcast is, like, you think of a mound visit and how important the inner circle of people are in your life. And so my dad, you know, you talked about Dad not making, maybe, you know, you had some mistakes or things that you wish you'd change. I wouldn't change anything just in regards to how important and the way everything, you know, paid off. Everything worked out the way it needed to work out. And we all learned lessons along the way. And so, you know, Sabes, obviously, I'm sure you've learned so many lessons. I don't know if, you know, before we take up too much of your time, what's like, you know, the biggest thing that probably stands out to you? It could be professionally on the field or even off the field, you know, the biggest lesson or advice that you would give people?
Well, again, I love the fact that you guys didn't listen to Bud and I, and you went to Vanderbilt. You're there, college champion, you know, college World Series champ, and still made a lot of money as a, you know, signing out of there. And I was always concerned. It's like you got this huge contract that you could have gotten right out of high school. If everybody doesn't know that, you've been a first round or high first round pick, with a lot of money behind there, you know, 7 digits. And I just kept shaking my head, going, he doesn't go to college and get hurt.
Admit it, Captain. You thought I was nuts.
Well, yeah,
I did too.
I did too. But, you know, it worked out for you, and it works out for a lot of guys too. And so when I was, one of the things that I always tried to relay to high school players that were on the verge of whether going professionally or going to play college ball is that it's ultimately got to be your decision, and you love for the parents, love for whoever to get involved and give you the pros and the cons of both. But I always, and this is how I come about saying this, is that God forbid if I told my kid that he had to go to college and he wasn't going to sign professionally, he gets hurt, he never plays again, he never gets a chance to put on that professional uniform. And it's going to look bad on me because I was the one that told him to go and do that, or whether it was his choice or not. So I try to always tell these parents to give them pros and cons, let them make that decision. You know, sometimes it's going to be what you want, sometimes it's not. But and I always felt that the professional level has, and especially if they have money invested in you, they're going to do everything they possibly can to get you healthy and keep you on that road to success. Where, the guy that doesn't get paid all that much or comes up and, is, 30th, 40th round pick, he gets hurt, they're not going to take care of him. But there are a lot better trainers and medical staff in the professional level than in the college level. And that's just a fact. But I'm glad it all worked out for you. But the one thing that I would stress to everybody is, if you want to be successful, you got to work hard. So you've got to put in the time and the effort. And I always say, never give up. I don't care whatever your dream is, never give up until it's just beaten into you. Sports-wise, you can only do it for so long. We all know that. Unless you're playing golf, you can play that for a lot longer. But being an athlete, you only got that small window. So that was my thought, was I'm going to do it as long and as hard as I can because it's not going to last forever. So work hard, enjoy whatever you're doing. And that's the big thing. You got to enjoy what you're doing. If you're not happy and you're just going through the motions because, you want to be in social, or your dad or your mom wants you to be in some kind of activity, it's not going to be fun for you. Kind of like piano lessons were for me at a young age.
I never knew that. There's a tidbit I never knew. Piano, man.
Yeah. No, Sabes, I really appreciate your time. We'll end with, we'll just do a quick, give me your 3 favorite, or maybe it's 2 favorite sports moments, experiences. So you think, so you mentioned golf, and so I'll lead it off. We'll go snake draft. So we'll go me, Walt, and then you, Sabes, to give you time to think. 3 favorite sports moments. And speaking of golf, mine's got to be sinking a hole in one, like, especially in front of like a gallery of people, man. Like, imagine yourself smoking a hole in one in front of like hundreds of people surrounding the green. I mean, like when Tiger did it, at 1 year at the Masters or whatever it was. It's like, for me, that's got to be up there. Walt, you got any?
Well, I kind of take this question as things I've witnessed in my childhood and as an adult. And the first one's got to be Carlton Fisk 75 World Series, Game 6. Him hitting that home run. I'm on my bed. That was huge. And the other one, I think, when I really start to look at it, is probably in when I was a little kid. They never had any sports television, and every morning we got a paper delivered to us, and in the upper right-hand corner would tell you Hank Aaron's home run count. And I remember following it in 1974, 73, 74, and he ended the season like 1 or 2 short in that winter. And then that following April, when he hit that home run, and they kept showing it. For me, that was like the moment where I knew I wanted to be a hitter, knew I wanted to play. So those 2 really stick out in my mind.
Yeah. Good.
Well, I think winning a championship, and I was fortunate to do it in 1985, and winning a championship, it doesn't matter whatever level it is special. Ty, you did it at Vanderbilt. I don't remember how the high school team did in that, but we won a city championship at Dodger Stadium, an unbelievable moment. So whether it be a championship, whatever level you are, but winning a championship, it's special times, and you kind of always remember your teammates from those teams. It's when you do win, you might not remember everybody that wasn't on a championship team, but I promise you probably remember every player that you had on a championship team.
So true. Let's see.
I know Kyle wants to know how you did the rap for the commercial after the World Series. The 85 Ford commercial with the rap.
You see the gray. It's that dance I had. Those dance moves are kind of they've kind of left me.
But you were ahead of your time. The rap was tight. Everything was good.
Right? Yeah. I needed to work on the vocals a little bit. My little squeaky 160-pound voice was a little obnoxious. But do I get
great to have it on YouTube.
Snake? Or is it a snake? I get to go again now?
You go again.
Yeah.
All right. So I would think going to Ty's game, what he was talking about, a hole-in-one, would be a part of a Ryder Cup or a President's Cup team, because these guys play an individual sport all their life, and now they get to be a part of a team and competing team-wise and not individually-wise, and pulling for your teammates has got to be pretty special and pretty cool to be a part of.
That's cool. That's a good one. I didn't think of that. That's awesome. Walt, you're up.
Oh, I'd just like to have one Big League AB. Just give me one Moonlight Graham moment.
That's it. It's simple.
Box, You know,
Yeah.
very, very simple. Because actually, my 1 year minor league ball, I don't know where your spring training was, Sabes, in the 80s, but we played at the Royals complex in Sarasota.
Okay, down Sarasota. Yeah.
Yeah, and they had a complex, that Kansas City Royals baseball complex down there. And I can remember it was the year of the strike, and I remember watching Nolan Ryan kind of cruise through one of the ballparks one day. You just want to know, what was it like? What does it feel like? So I would love to be a guy in a box, bases loaded, down by a run, you know, digits on the bases, and, you know, just getting into that adrenaline rush right there, you know. So it's kind of cool watching when Tyler's facing hitters. I'd like to, you know, be the guy, you know, in the box saying, all right, meat, serve it up. Let's see. Let's go.
Too bad you would have struck out, but
Hey,
we'll
we'll
line it up.
Hammer, though.
We'll line it up. I'll throw you heaters down the middle if you want. See if,
Oh, yeah. All right. I'll swing it. I can hack. I can still hack.
We'll get some ducks on the pond. We'll get some people out there.
Blind squirrel gets a nut, Captain.
But
Blind
actually,
squirrel.
Walt, I've always said that. I played baseball in professional one day longer than I ever expected. Very fortunate to have had the career that I did. So I always knock on wood, blessed for playing in the big leagues. But I always said that if a sports fan of whatever sport it was, if they could put on the uniform and play at the highest level, whether it be one pass, whether it be one rush, whether it be one shot into, you know, the 18th at the Master, whatever it might be, standing in a box, pitching in a game, shooting, you know, a shot against Michael Jordan, just professionally at the highest level, to do it at least once, it's unbelievable. It would be a great thrill for people to have, you know, that we could experience that. I don't know, maybe at some point in time, this virtual stuff you're gonna be able to step in there and really experience that stuff.
That's true. They are on that pace to have people be able to virtually experience that. That's incredible. Let's see. I'm going to go with – I got two here. Wow. I'm going to go with – I love Tom Brady, so I think about, like, there's, like, 2-minute drill, right? So Brady's, like, he's losing by however many. Your quarterback driving the team down the field, down by 2, and you need to go put them either in field goal territory. Maybe you're down 4 and you need to go score a touchdown, and you go lead them down and score a touchdown, and you win game-winning drive. I just got to think, man, like, the ability to do that takes incredible amount of focus and execution. And I know I'm playing football, but not at the highest level. Being able to do that one time was incredible, and to do it in a Super Bowl setting would be incredible. And my last one, I don't know. I like, man, going off of the basketball documentary, just being able to drain like a game-winning 3 in someone's face at the end of the game. Like I think Damian Lillard doing it, Michael Jordan, the countless times he's done it. That's got to be cold-blooded, just being able to sink a shot with clock running out. That'd be incredible. Walt, you got one?
I mean, for me, everything just revolves around, you know, I'd love to be a catcher calling a no-hitter, and I never had that happen. You know what I mean? Like, that's got to be – Veritek caught 4 of those. So was Tech there when you were there? He
was one of my ultimate catchers. I had a few guys that were awesome. Bob Boone, Jim Sundberg, Veritek, and Charlie O'Brien, who was Greg Maddox's chauffeur every time he
Who caught your no-hit piece?
That was Brent Main. Mangy did a great job behind the plate too. He was a younger kid, but he did a really good job. But the veteran guys, I just love pitching to. As I probably Posey's got to be awesome to throw to.
Yeah, big time. All right, what Sabes? You'll end it. You'll end it with one.
Last, I've always enjoyed skiing. So I've become friends with a few professional former Olympic skiers. And I've gone to a couple of World Cup skiings, and I've slipped the course that they're going 70 to 80, 90 miles an hour down. That is all solid ice. And you want to talk about puckering up a little bit? Yeah. And that's just going down sideways, not taking the course down.
Right.
But to have, I'm going to say, to have the balls that these guys do, these women and these guys that do it professionally, that can't even see where they're going to be landing, and they're going off 70 miles, 80 miles an hour to experience something like that. But I don't have the guts to do it. And they have no fear whatsoever. And it'd be pretty cool to experience something like that.
That's awesome. No, once again, Sabes, appreciate your time, man. Thanks for being on. It's been a privilege to get to hear more about your story, and thanks for sharing with us, man.
Well, we look forward to getting some baseball back and seeing your butt back out on that mound. So hopefully
Me
that
too.
happens before too long. Thanks
That's
for
the
having me,
hope.
guys. Oh, Cappy.
Captain, thank
Bye.
you.